Pierre, thanks for being one of our first guests on the Range Project.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I don't know if you remember this. The first time I met you, I think it was in the Windsor Hotel, South Perth.
Yep.
We're having lunch with a few engineering guys from UWA.
Yes.
And we had a big chat about bird training. Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
See, I didn't know you were a magician or dabbling with being a magician at that stage. You were still environmental scientist. But then after the meal, everyone was pressuring you to do all the tricks and things. And I was blown away with one of the things that you were doing. I think it was a mentalism task. You were reading one of the guys' faces, almost looking into their brain.
Yes, that would be kind of a mentalism presentation type of magic. Yeah.
And I was blown away because it's completely out of my realm of understanding how you're doing that.
That's the point.
We're going to talk to you about some of that stuff later on. But the first question I want to ask you is, when did you make the call to become a full-time magician?
Okay, so full-time would be just over 2 years ago.
Yep.
But I've been doing magic since I'm 10 years old as a hobby and a passion. And professionally, as in doing paid engagements, I've been doing that for maybe 25 years. It started with some kindy shows back home in Canada, Quebec, when I was a kid, or my parents' friends would book me for little events, as you do at that time when you're 14, 15. And then when we moved to Australia in 97, so 22 years ago now, I started doing more and more bigger engagements, corporate events, private parties. And it started getting pretty busy over the weekends, and I realized I really loved it. I mean, it's completely different to what I was doing as a regulator and a consultant in the resource sector. But I felt before I get too old, it's my last chance to give it a go. And other than the last month of a hiatus, but all of us have had it, really. It's been amazing. Really busy 2 years of building a business and performing.
Great. So it was kind of a slow build-up.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't just jump over the cliff overnight saying, I love magic, I'm going to do it. I had a plan, and I think that's important in life. I did study hard. I loved what I was doing, just not as much as magic perhaps, or at least at the time. And I felt I had more to give through magic, at least for this point in time.
And do you remember your first performances? Your first public performance? Do you remember how that went and what you were feeling and that?
Yes, I would have been horrible. I was young, we're talking 13 years old. I did little street shows. You know how kids can have lemonade stands where me and my two neighbors, we learned really bad magic and we did our little shows for the neighbors.
Yep.
But I kept studying it. Back then we didn't have the internet, so we had a public library not far, and it kind of, this room reminds me of it in some way. It was, and we would, there was a little magic section, not a huge one, but I read all the books cover to cover.
I'm curious, Pierre, about if we backtrack to when you were 10 and you first started thinking about magic, where did could you go back to a particular moment in time where you saw a magic trick being done by someone, or someone in the family was an enthusiast? Sure. Or
there's a few events that are kind of blended in my memories, but I think most kids, like my son's 4, and he's already probably because he sees me, but kids that age, they kind of are aware that there's a thing called magic tricks or magic, and it involves weird movements and things that shouldn't happening. So I obviously got that, as any kid did. But there's a strange aesthetic and mystery surrounding magic that gives the bug to people who get it. So mine would, as I said, around 10 years old, we would do these the books, the images, the old engravings, and I've brought a few to show you guys of old books and newer ones. They used to fascinate me, the drawings from like medieval magic. And then there was also an article published in a local lifestyle magazine which covered magic, as a performing art. And apparently there was a guy in my city, in Quebec City, his name's Guy Camira and Gary Ouellet, one of them has passed away now, but they were famous magician in the scene. One of them was a big guy. He consulted with David Copperfield and all of that. He was also a lawyer by trade, a barrister, but he did that as a side passion. And there was a beautiful article with photos of the old coins and cards and objects, and that just I still remember exactly what the photo was, and that really appealed to me. But then there's other memories, like there was a guy, a carpenter, who fixed my parents' garage over a summer. Like, he was transforming it into a room, and he did a bit of magic. And when he saw I was kind of into it, he fooled me with a couple of effects, and even showed my mum one, and she did it to me, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, all of those. And then eventually mum took us to see a David Copperfield show when I was maybe 14. So all these things definitely are memories of when you fight. But that can be same with sport, or any hobby or passion.
You're talking about the aesthetic that you create.
Yes.
And you actually, I can see the passion when you're talking about it, and you actually like to present that in your shows, right? You talk about how magic looks like it's actually happening in front of you, but you're quite explicit about the fact that it's entirely an illusion. Which is that an original thing that you do? Or
oh no, I think more and more. I mean, it's like post-punk in music, or
right.
post. In the old days, yes, there were charlatans using magical techniques to pretend they had superpowers, for ages from the immediate. Magic's, they say, it's the second oldest profession in the world.
So are you a
the
real
first
history
being
buff?
Barber, of course. Sorry?
Are you a real history buff with magicians?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest, but I'm pretty well read. I mean, there's some people, like in any pursuit, that just get into the technical aspect, but some are really into academic. Now, there's a whole subculture of magicians that love history. They're not necessarily great performers. They just love. They have massive libraries, and because magicians surprisingly are very prolific publishers. Even though it's supposed to be secret, they love showing their discoveries.
Yeah,
and sharing it, because it's secret. But if someone's really into it, that's when you start teaching them. Yeah.
Well, can I ask you some of your, can you talk about the variety of the work that you do now? So it's not just stage shows, there's corporate events, there's education. So tell us about some of the things that you're currently doing now.
Yeah, so there's different categories of magic. But wait, we digress. I needed to answer the question. You say it's not real. So it's important. So yes, so it's a bit of a modernist approach to say that, and then there was a time where guys would just keep it very underground and obscure, like what they're doing. But now I think everyone's quite aware that it's a theatrical art form, so it's a bit silly to pretend otherwise. I mean, once you're on stage, you can act anything. But when you're talking about it, I think it's good to say, it's a real phenomena.
It doesn't lose any of the magic.
No, in a way, it's almost more beautiful. Isn't astronomy magical? In its own sense, or science, physics is magical, and the more you know about it, the more weird and magical it is. So it's a real experience that brings real emotions, but it uses a mixture of psychological, technical, and theatrical means to create that emotion. It might be very short-lived. You might see something and go, wow, that's amazing. You Google it, find a secret, go, oh. But during that 5 second or 5 hours that you were fooled, you had an amazing, weird emotion.
I guess for that reason, you've constantly got to keep changing what you're doing.
Correct. And nowadays the information is so available that there's actually, it's been good in some areas where it's pushed magicians to go really hard. Some of it's just online, it's only for video, which is a bit of a shame. But if you can do that live and still always push the envelope, it's quite great. Then
it led me to that question.
Yeah.
What are you currently doing, and what's the diversity of your role at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm very polyvalent. Like some people will specialize. They just do card gambling demonstration, or only stage magic with big illusions, or only do mentalism. I do pretty much all of it. I shouldn't say it, but I do it quite a lot. And also there's different forms. You can do it up close, roving and strolling, or on stage. So at the moment I do my bread and butter is still maybe 40% is walk around roving gigs where you're at a party or an event and socializing with people and doing in the hands magic. That completely vanished for the last 6 weeks, as you can imagine. Then there is stage performances or parlor shows where you're in front of an audience and you perform. I do those at festivals, outdoors, or in theaters.
And corporate events?
And then, yeah, that's right. Corporate events is big as well. Like, it could be a shindig, or sometimes I've been booked to perform at meetings, like to to do brainstorming sessions or back to work sessions,
and creativity sessions
with an engineering civil firm that wanted me to just talk to them, just add an hour of fun in their day of corporate discussions on health and safety, for example. So I did that at the start of the year. That was great.
And you've been moving into education a little bit now.
Yeah,
so what have you been doing in that space?
Yeah, so I do school shows, library shows, and lately I've been doing a lot of kind of workshops with kids. Formed a couple here at Scotch
College.
Amazing experience, just to teach about creativity, thinking outside the box, positive thinking, and using magic as a vehicle, but really just to talk about different various methods and messages.
I'm really interested with that point you made about specialisation, because you said some magicians specialise and others have a bit more of a diverse range of types of magic that they do. Do you think, because we're really interested in how that applies to learning in general, that idea of specialisation versus being a generalist, and I'm curious to hear what you think about having tackled all those styles of magic, the fact that you've got that range, does that then feed back into particular areas and help you get better at those, the fact that you've got this broad range?
It can definitely help, and I think we'll talk about that more. Within a field like magic, sometimes, same as let's say a medical science, being a doctor, you can be a GP or you can be a specialist oncologist, deals with cancer. One will require a very narrow study of a very specific field for longer. And in a way, you might be more skilled in that than the GP will be at each of the, the whole expression, jack of all trades, master of none. That's not necessarily correct. But with magic is the same. Like if you're a generalist, it means maybe I can do good sleight of hand, but that guy or a girl that only does sleight of hand with coins might be better at coin magic than I will be. So that's something to consider.
So how's it benefited you then to be more of a generalist?
It just means, for example, work-wise, it means you have more flexibility. It also means some people, they get told, hey, can you please perform? Or you're in an opportunity where it would be of good value, would give pleasure to people if you perform. But they're like, I don't have my helicopter and my boxes and my assistant, or I don't have my pigeons, or, the surface is not good for doing card tricks. So it is good to be able to, so I can kind of perform in all situations, which is really great. And I can say or some magicians say, I don't do kids magic. That's a bit of a shame. Like kids love magic. And if, maybe not for a living, but if you're at an event and or in life and there's kids and they go, we want to be entertained, and you're like, no, I only do deep and meaningful mentalism for adults. It's a bit strange. Yeah. So that's one angle.
Well, I guess you can do the matinee show and you can do the nighttime show too, right?
So for me, that's been great, both from a business perspective and satisfaction of giving pleasure and spreading magic through being able to perform anywhere.
And you brought science into the education side of it as well for the kids magic show?
Yeah, so I've got a magic science show. I'm still developing it. It's a challenging one because parts of me says I should just do a pure science show, like a science demo show, blow up hydrogen and elephant's toothpaste and all that. But I've kind of integrated that with magic. It's kind of good because you can show the difference between rational thinking and illusion, and using your critical mind to decide what's real and not.
Yeah, it's probably quite an important thing to learn these days.
Yes, very. Forever. So yes, because my background's in science, I studied biology here at Curtin Uni, and I thought it would be fun I'm passionate about science as well. Science is magic, as I said at the start in itself. It's actually much more magical than magic. So I think it's good for people to learn about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of your general understanding of things. You're not just a generalist in magic, but you've got a science background. You speak multiple languages. Yeah,
look, I've always been a fan of polymath approach to life, or the Renaissance person. I'm not very developed in many areas, but I really highly regard people that are very well educated. I'm not saying that in an elitist way, but just people that
have range
and have looked into a lot of things. And there is a point in life where you do need to go, okay, I can't be a musician, a magician, a painter, a doctor. There's just not enough time. If I was immortal, that would be my ethos. but we're not, unfortunately. Yes.
Do you think, can you articulate how the fact that you speak multiple languages, the fact that you do magic, the fact you've been a scientist, how those sort of, that range feed into how you leverage all of those different skills for each one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's very good. It's something I'm going to try and instill in my kids. So when I grew up in Quebec, a part of Canada, which, especially in Quebec City, it's only French pretty much. So French was my first language, but very young, my dad he loves languages, so he inspired us to learn like count to 10 in Japanese, and learn English as well, of course, which we do in primary school eventually, but some people will not. I think that learning, because languages are very associated with culture, and they have different angles associated with language. It's not just the cultural, but just ways of seeing life.
Broadens your horizons.
Yeah. So within Anglo-Saxon or within Latin culture, there's going to be views. If you study Chinese, which I can't speak, it's a Mandarin, you will learn a whole different way of thinking. They have symbols that have imagery associated. So it just opens up your connections in your mind. The more you know, the more you know. It's a boring saying, but it's kind of true. So languages are, I think, knowing, I'm fluent in English and French, but I studied Italian and I speak Indonesian all right, like, intermediate, beginner, intermediate level. And there's a few other languages I've dabbled with, but I wish I had more time. Again, it's some people are proper polyglots and they speak fluently 8, 10, 11 languages, which is amazing, but that's probably all they do, or maybe not. And then to go back to the other things of doing art, so I love drawing, I love magic, which is a theatrical art form, and I love science. Technically they've got nothing to do with one another, but in a way they do. You realize links. Einstein, his famous saying, imagination is more important than knowledge. That's what he's saying. He's saying, if you just study physics and maths, great, you'll be probably a good mathematician or physicist, but to be like, at his level, he was a genius. I'm sure there's some physiological brain aspects that we haven't explained of any genius, but nevertheless, he was recognizing that imagination, so having ideas that probably stem from art and different disciplines of science and his upbringing,
absolutely. There's
helped him develop some of his theories,
There's a lot of Nobel Prize winners. I think they're about 20 times more likely to have some sort of artistic pursuit outside of their realm of speciality. So they'll be musicians, or they'll be painters, or they'll be woodworkers, or so. They're Nobel Prize winners 20 times more likely to have one of those artistic pursuits.
Makes sense. It just allows you have more tools in your toolbox, so you can fix
tools.
more issues. Because life is full of uncertainties. So as you stumble upon them, if you go, I happen to have the right tool here. Here it is. I have playing cards. What a segue. So cards are interesting. Did you know, guys, that this is great. So did you know magicians use cards? It's strange because really they're a game design object initially, but they've just have such.
Why have they become so popular? Why is it so popular?
That's a great. I don't know why. I think because in a small object you've got 52 plus the 2 jokers possibilities, which probably was used for gambling or whatever pursuits back in the forever. The playing cards are invented. The first evidence of cards were actually on tiles made by Chinese. They were like probably mahjong kind of game style. Then the Indians and Persian came up with cards that were like on parchment, and then the Europeans came up with more the modern hearts, clubs, spades, diamond, which I think is more the French style of cards. And I speak about it in my shows, but it's pretty cool. Cards are like calendars. How there's 13. I talk about it. I'm sure you've heard it. There's
52.
4 seasons, 4 suits, 13 months, 13 lunar cycles, 12 months. But there's actually 13 values in a pack of cards in each shoot. And if you add up there's 52 weeks in a year, and there's 52 cards. And if you add up all the value, did you count? I'll show it for those at home. If you just add up all the values, 364. So if you go, 3 plus 4 plus, and then 5 and 6 with the jokers for leap and normal years. So some people say it's a coincidence. I think it's just maths, but it's pretty cool. So anyhow, people, including charlatans, to tell the future and stories, have used cards forever. And I think because they're so easy to, they're just the right size to put in your pocket and do stuff.
Up your sleeve.
Yeah, put them up your sleeve. They've become really popular object, or in your mouth. Sorry. They've become, sorry about that. It's what I ate. They've become really popular object. Sam, do you want to try a trick?
Love to.
Okay, I think just for the benefit of people seeing, I think we can see here.
Yeah.
I'll leave that as a point. Actually, the bell can hear. This is a little microphone connector. This will be a point in space. So I want you to just touch anyone you want. Yeah, lean over and pull it out. And you can bring it out and just give it to me so everyone can see. Okay, good. Yeah, take it. Okay, good. And just say stop when you want.
Stop.
Good. Just chuck it in here. There you go. On top. Excellent. That was easy. So Sam picked a card. That's going to be his choice. Now, I'm just going to cast the shadow of mystery. You see the shadow? So shadow is a dark shape. It's absence of light. And if I just spread through the cards, see, there's one card that's gone shadowy. I know. I mean, one card is fine, but what was the card you were merely, you looked at?
Seven of diamonds.
Lucky it worked. Okay, the shadowy card. But now I'll put that here. We'll do it with a different one just for Steve. So I'll shuffle like this, and when you want, I'll keep it in camera. It'll be easier. Just say stop as you wish when you want.
Stop.
Here?
Yep.
Is that a good one?
That's a great one. Yep.
Okay, I'll try and make that one go shadowy. Sorry. Only one card can go dark at the same time. You remember I said it was just a perception thing? So did you also have the seven? What was yours?
Seven of diamonds.
Did you pick the same?
No.
Oh, was it a diamonds?
Yeah.
What was yours?
10 of diamonds.
That's crazy, eh? I don't know if it rubs off or not, but yeah, there you go. Shadow cards, I call it. Thanks.
That is excellent.
What were we talking about?
I have no idea.
The tools of the trade. Yes, correct. Having tools in your toolbox, including... So cards are amazing because, there's the maths. So 52, let's ignore the jokers. 52 factorial is a huge number. So essentially they say that if someone shuffles a pack of cards non-stop, if all 8 billion humans shuffle cards for 100 years and they spread the cards, the order of the cards might never be the same once in that whole period of time. So there's so many permutations. So every time there's a shuffled pack, that's maybe the first time in the history of humanity that this specific order, 2 plus Jack plus 5, has ever been together. It's pretty mind-boggling.
Wow. Right, Pierre, you obviously can't do a degree in magic or anything like that. You've had to probably learn a lot of this stuff on your own. What are some of the ways that you've learned all these tricks? I guess there's some manual things that you've learned. I know you recently taught yourself how to do a Rubik's Cube, and then you incorporated that into part of your act. So, and there'd be a mindset involved with constantly being passionate about learning new things too. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Definitely. Well, that's kind of what I love about magic is it's kind of unlimited. Someone will come up. So Rubik's Cube magic didn't exist 10 years ago. There was a few things around, but it was very rare. Mm-hmm. But then a few magicians started developing routines, and about 5 years ago it exploded. A few guys went on, America's Got Talent, did Rubik's Cube routine. Plus, in parallel, also Rubik's Cube solving has become a thing again. It's massive. I mean, it dates from the 80s, but it's made a comeback. Kids around the world are having competitions. Mm-hmm. The world record's 4 seconds or something. It's crazy. So magicians put it together, and I was 40 and I'm like, I can't solve this cube. It's actually hard. So even though it's had nothing to do with magic, because I love magic and I could see there was some cool magic you could do with this puzzle, I'm like, okay, I'm going to learn how to solve it. So I actually and I don't have a great memory. I'm not a natural mathematician. It's something that I need to work. You need to have really good memory to learn the algorithms to get quick enough to make it.
And a lot of muscle memory as well.
Yeah, that's right. Muscle memory and just memory. And mainly muscle memory that's linked to it. And also, to be really good, I think is something else, which I don't have. Those guys that do it under 30 seconds, you need this intuition. I think you need to have spent years with a cube in your hand, you know. So yes, to summarize, I watch videos, I use books, and I wrote down. So they're all techniques you learn as a student. Yeah, how do you learn? You either say something, you watch something, but then you have to usually do it. Like in sports, muscle memory is a lot. In magic as well. Then some other things are just memory. You need to remember the sequence of things, and some other things will be just tips and techniques, like public speaking or theatrical techniques, which are more human psychology, let's say. So all of those need to be learned. Yeah.
Can I ask, is there an element to which why you chose the Rubik's Cube almost to challenge yourself with versus other types of magic tricks? And how you differentiate between what ones you think, right, I know this is going to be the next month of my life focused on this?
As I said, it kind of became big in the Magic Underground. So there's this thing of being
part of that community.
Yeah,
almost.
Enjoying the challenge, going, how are these guys doing it? Or I know how they're doing it, but I can't, and you want to learn. So there's that, competition against yourself, I guess. But there's other areas where I could have spent more time on specific card techniques or on Dove productions. But that one seemed, again, it's a small object you can carry in your bag and
sort of seemed conquerable.
To some extent. For a while, I was about to give up because it's actually hard to get that first. I can solve it under a minute without having to refer to my notes. So that took me a month and a half.
And the tricks that you do with them, are they things that you've come up with yourself, or
there's a couple of subtleties, but no, it's a mixture of things I've read or videos of other people. So I'm not a Rubik's Cube specialist. I know it looks impressive what I do with it, what you saw those other days, but there's some people that are much better at it. Cards is definitely one of my big strengths, and some of the mental stuff. And now I'm working more on stage pantomime work, which I'll showcase a bit later over the coming years, hopefully.
And you brought some books in, so what have you learnt from those?
So learning. So look, ideally, traditionally magic is often done through mentorship. So you have a person that's a better magician than you that says, you look interested, I will teach you. And so there's magic clubs that facilitate that. In some parts it was very close, where it was, I choose you as one of my students. And I never got to do that. Unfortunately, those guys in Quebec that I mentioned didn't pan out that I became a student. But I did join the Quebec Magic Club as a kid, and you learn a bit there, but it's only once a month. And so for me back then was essentially books or VHS tapes. Kids, it's a thing. Beta or VHS, or what is it? Yeah, Beta or VHS. VHS. So I had a VHS tape. So back then already it started with videos. Nowadays, you can learn a lot just through Google and YouTube, but there's too much. So back then, so I learned books, and it was interesting because I learned my English a lot through books. Because even though there's quite a big literature of French magic books, because we're in Canada, most of it, the Americans have a big production of magic books. So I got English magic books. So I was learning from, and some books, I tell you, there's not many drawings,
Wow.
So this is called Expert Card Technique. This one is a Bible of card magicians. It's called The Expert at the Card Table. It's a small book. You can get it in most bookshops in America anyhow. Over 100 illustrations, and that's it. And the English use is from I'll tell you now, early 1902 it was first published. Wow. So it's 18 years old. So it's an old book. But it was very well written. The guy who wrote it, it's a mystery. No one knows who it is. He didn't want to get attacked by either the magicians or the gambling, because he divulges a lot of gambling cheating techniques. But it still is a reference for most magicians. So as an 11-year-old kid, you go there and you go, whoa, and you read this, and it's hard. So you've really got to be dedicated. So I would sit down, and I think this one I got a bit later, but This one's called Modern Coin Magic from GB Bobo. So this one has little drawings of hands holding coins. But you can imagine the difficulty as a youngster trying to learn this. You're going, hold something in a grip. So what really helped me was my parents took me to a magic shop in Montreal, and I got a book called Now You See It, Now You Don't. So there's many books like it, but this one was great because this is the original one. I've had it for 25 years, 30 years. It had a lot of beautiful illustration. It's a classic, and it's all sleight of hand.
That'd be great for kids with all those illustrations.
Yeah, so at 12 years old, I could reach there and just go, I'll do magic with, and I could just read. See, this coin walks across the fingers, walks across the hands. I can just read what's in the book and practice. So you use a mirror time and all of that to create illusions of magic. Nowadays, you can use camera, just put your phone and film yourself and watch it. But the best is still to be with colleagues and say, hey, how was that? Did that look good when the coin came out of my nose? Can I do that again? Or things like that. So books were amazing. And there's beautiful classic. This one's called Stars of Magic. I got that. I was like 14 years old. And I still perform some of the piece. It's from the 40s or 50s. Look at it. Beautiful, all black and white drawings. And it smells amazing. So it's something that the youth of this day sometimes has lost a bit because they have so much access to videos on their phones. However, serious magician, it's great. Even young magicians now, they go, I'm studying this book, and because it is easy. There's a different way of learning. If you see a video, you're going to emulate the person, not just what they're doing, but so sometimes it's great for hard moves that are really hard to understand when you read it. So you go, okay,
you can often learn a lot more when you try it yourself, right?
Correct.
And fail yourself.
Yeah, but that's right. And it's looking at principles or how a routine is layered. And sometimes you come up with your own stuff because you do it a bit different to what it really was meant to be, and you come up with a better idea. So this whole thing about this range, when you read, I think it's good to do all of it. Have a mentor if you can, jam with your friends, watch YouTube videos or buy DVDs, downloads now of magic, and read books. It's all different layers, and so I think magicians nowadays are better technically, the young ones, than I was at that age, and probably already still. Like the learning curve is amazing.
Do you think that forces, when you read it's a bit like when you read a novel versus watching a film, it sort of sparks the imagination more than watching a video of someone doing it. So therefore,
I read all the Lord of the Rings before the movies, the Harry Potters before the movies, and the Game of Thrones before the TV series. I love my fantasy, or I used to, and they're better. The books, like the stories in my head, were better, even though they were great when they got made in movies or TV. The story in your head is unlimited. You can create the elves or the orcs 10 times better than any director can, in your mind. So
I guess the books are pretty good for the manual techniques, but a lot of what you do is based on persuasion and illusion and that. So where do you learn all that?
So you can read mentalism books where they go, talk to someone that way or do something. For example, Steve, hold this 50 cent piece and just put it behind your back. I don't know if this is going to work. It's just an experiment, but I'll show you what I mean. Put it in one of your hands and bring it out. It's like the old heads and tail. Yeah, bring it forward. So now just by looking at you, I think it's in there, correct? Yeah, open it up. Okay, that's cool, but don't get too amazed. You're acting amazed, but really it's 50-50. That's not magic. Do it again. Change hands and whatever, okay? And bring it out. Don't be sneaky and put it under your seat. That would be...
I'll do it so we can see, yeah.
So psychologically, I'd be tempted to say it's in the same hand, and you just flinch, so it is. So yeah, that's great. So do it again.
See?
So that's twice. But every time I've done it, it's only been 50-50. But as you know, if you study probabilities, it's 2 times 2. So that's 1 out of 4 chances I just got because I've done it twice. So bring it out again.
So do you play poker?
No, I hate gambling. It's my father told to me when I was a kid, gambling is a tax for people that can't do probabilities. You just don't win. Or if you do, you lose it. So no, I've never I've tried, but it's so boring. I love doing tricks. Can I see your hands again? Oh, that's a tough one. I think you've put in the same hand again. Yeah, see. So now that's 1 out of 9. So now it's going from the 50-50 into the realm. Do it one more time to make it really impossible.
He's testing how stubborn I am right now.
Into the realm. So as you move forward, it goes from the improbable to the Not to the, 50-50 to, unlikely to improbable to impossible. Bring it out one last time or else we'll bore them. Okay, that's a tough one. I think it's in that hand again. See, he got me. See, so we got pretty deep. Yeah, we got pretty deep.
So some of the things I've seen you do, like, I can't replicate.
Is the blood coming back? You were holding. You were like.
Is that what you were looking at?
No, but I could see you were like. This time he won't get
stressing
me.
out.
Yeah.
Some of the things you kind of get people to like put their hands up and then say, put your right hand down, but you keep. I can't remember what you're doing. You get like keep your hands up or something. Are you determining who is more?
Oh yes, so hypnosis. So I'm not a hypnotist per se, although I think it's great. Like stage hypnotism it's an old. It's on. So there's medical therapeutical hypnotism or clinical hypnotism, which is one discipline I'm not too familiar with.
Not everyone's as susceptible as others, right?
It's not a very well-known phenomenon, but essentially you're getting people to relax, stimulate their imagination, and on stage anyhow, to create stories. You create stories for them, and they will play along if they're susceptible to quite deep levels. You can get someone to jump off a bridge under hypnosis, and do many other things that they don't want to do, or act really silly on stage. They can. But if it's something that's positive, most people will get a really good positive experience out of visualization and going along. So, but yeah, I've never really trained as a hypnotist, but there's a whole realm in mentalism where we use some of those techniques. I do use some basic rapid hypnosis techniques. So yes, getting hands together. Just you can tell people that visualize really well just because they're nodding when you're telling them a story. So you pick those people to come and assist. So that's something I'm happy to share. That's basic method, but it just means your show will be better because the people that come on stage will be easier to
willing to get involved.
Yeah.
Willing to get involved.
Yeah, and just the fun to take on a journey,
Yeah.
I had a question for you, Pierre, with regards to hypnosis and mentalism. And I listened to this guy, Scott Adams, who is the creator of Dilbert. He's like a cartoonist, famous cartoonist. Yes. And he was a hypnotist. He's a trained hypnotist.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he had these fascinating things to say about hypnotism. And one of them was, it taught me that it's sort of the inverse of the way people tend to think. So he said, people tend to think that we're rational 95% of the time and irrational 5% of the time. Okay. So we just occasionally make some irrational decisions. Yeah. And he said, hypnotism teaches you that people are, for the most part, quite irrational, but they're very good at rationalizing their behavior. I wanted to ask you to what extent you think that's true, and whether you have got some insight on that with regards to mentalism and...
Yeah, look, I don't have any expert insight, although it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I've read Dilberts, they're great, very satirical, fun comics. Look, at the end of the day, magic or mentalism is performance, but what it does, the fact that so many people are really happy to play along and go on the ride, or you can have really rational people that shut it down, but even in that realm, people still want to believe really strange things. Like magic doesn't make much sense. That's the whole point of the art form. But there's still people that will say, no, you must. There's more to it than just tricks. Which, it's tempting to go in the dark side and say yes, there is. But what I'm doing anyhow, there's none.
I think rational people still find value in being sucked into that illusion.
Yeah, well,
how did you do that?
Look at all the conspiracy theories during this pandemic. People love silly stuff. I don't know why. There's something about humans that is deeply flawed in our way. Even though we can have amazing rational, we can do mathematics and build bridges and go to space, we also believe really silly things. And as a magician, I don't want to go. There is a whole branch of magic that has gone in that area. Well, I'm well aware. I love to just take it as the expeditive experience at the moment of, wow, this was cool. The card turned to black, or he knew in which hand it was 4 times in a row, 3 times.
You like to weave in the mentalism, but not have it as sort of a dominating force of the show.
I'm actually pulling away. I'm doing less and less mentalism. It's because it's very scarily powerful, and I don't like that because people, for that reason, people just get too much into it.
freak out a little bit.
Well, and I want it to be harder. Sleight of hand's hardest because in a way, and it's more challenging. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. I just feel like, for me anyhow, this is very not selfish, but it's at the end of the day, you've got to enjoy what you do. And
do you still use elements of persuasion to distract people from where they're looking?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's right. And it's pure. There's no lies. You're not saying, "Oh, I'm reading your body language," when you're not. It's actually, look, there's these objects and my movement and it's like a mixture of magic of sleight of hand is essentially a mixture of micro juggling and mime. You're miming things, and it's so technical, like the levels that I want to get to before I get too old and start having arthritis. There's some amazing stuff you can create with just movement, and I find in a way that's even more magical and mystical than using a bit of deception through words and tools, gimmickry or whatever, or you can imagine there's a whole realm of IT magic out there that's I find horribly boring, but it creates miracles. But it's not challenging. I mean, the challenging bit is the acting, but it's.
But you like the technical challenge.
Well, sleight of hand is sincere. You're like, I'm showing you something that's not real, but it's looking real. But if your story is a deception, then you're already a bit too deep. Anyhow, this is going a bit in weird magic underground talk, but that's something that I think a lot about.
Does that translate to your own philosophy on life at all?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a valid objective to try and be truthful.
You're dealing with the truth.
And we all have our demons about that every minute, I'm sure. But I think truthful with regards to facts around us, with regards to our relationships and how we deal with that, it's a challenge really as you get older and you become an adult, to be truthful and to have your action match your thoughts and your words match your thoughts and your actions.
Yeah.
So magic is a big thing because magic's a lie, but it's a playful lie, but it can be pretty serious. If you're like, yeah, I'm reading your thoughts and you take it really seriously, people will believe. And without going into any too philosophical or religious discussion, I prefer being honest about it. So just saying, look, I have a coin, and just by going like that, it looks like it's vanished, and it really looks. And if your sleight of hand is really advanced and your whole body language is doing the lying, but in a really honest way, that's pure beauty for me. So that's what I'm trying to work more on nowadays.
Have you ever been tempted to use, knowing what you know about the psychological power of it,
for evil?
Yeah, well, when I say that, I mean like to maybe encourage someone else's behaviour, even if it's for a noble cause, but use that in a particular way.
Have you read the book Shantaram?
Yes.
Yeah, the whole thing of the book is what is it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially you can do the right things for the wrong reasons, or you can do the wrong things for the right reasons. Ideally, you do the right things for the right reason. So there's your answer on that of what I think. But yes, but even that, by talking about it openly, like we did in those growth mindset workshops so even though you're saying these are just theatrical techniques, you're empowering people to use their imagination, think outside the box, be positive, say, look, this is not necessarily real, or I can't really read your mind, but there's some real information you can glean from people in social position. So yes, at meetings, in workplaces, in my past career, I would use like public speaking methods or eye contact methods or...
So did you develop a lot of those things naturally? Like your public speaking skills and your engagement with the audience, is that something you actually worked on?
Oh, yeah.
Or was it something that you're quite engaging anyway, or is that...
I was pretty shy as a kid, but socially, but because I loved reading and books and languages, I've always been very verbal, but that's kind of what I'm trying to do less of now and do more visual stuff because it's a challenge. But this is personally. But yeah, sometimes I see other magicians, which I see as master magicians, whether they're mentalists, and I'm like, I'm not there yet, or I watch videos of my performances and say, not saying the right things. You've got to be critical of yourself. But definitely it's an area as a magician if you're taking your craft seriously.
So you'll self-reflect and then
I try and film every show and go, this was horrible. No one likes seeing themselves perform, but you can also go, I moved around too much here. I said 100 words when I could have said 5. That's something I personally struggle with. Talking too much is a big problem in life. Listening is important. Talking is good at the right time, but ideally, silence in theatrics is so powerful. Imagine I didn't have to say a word, and you knew what to do.
I think that's often the way, right? With actors that I love, on screen, like Ryan Gosling, for example, is often minimal amount of dialogue that he uses in a film, but they just have a close up on his face, and you can kind of read many emotions, and that sort of takes him to that next level. I think that's maybe true for a magic show as well.
Yeah, let's try something.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm holding us back from the magic.
That's weird. Oh, well. Too bad. It's just a weird visual thing where your card goes blank and then the cards go blank. But see,
I just don't understand how that's physically possible. Like, I'm looking at you right there, and I just...
you're like this one. What was your card? I forgot. I didn't even look at it.
8 of hearts.
Oh, yeah, I did look at it. It's blank now. Yes, so that's an effect where normally I'd talk, but technically, was there need to talk? No. I mean, really, it was fine to do it as a standalone piece. So I'll try. This is cool as well. I like these really. This is a bit hard, but I'll try it like this angle. So you just go and just print it back. Did that work? Yeah, it looked pretty neat. So I'll try it again. Then imagine the card. Where's the camera there? This might be bad. Okay, there we go. It's like just an invisible thing. I don't know if that looked alright. We might need to
edit that one. No, it looked great.
Okay, good.
Looked perfect from where I am.
So these are really hard things, but I find that great. And you can spend a year just practicing those
one
two
trick.
moves. Yeah, and they're not life-changing, but at the moment, if it's done perfectly, it can be. Like, it's like, what happened? And you don't have to use... Playing cards are a bit overdone. I'm trying to learn stuff with credit cards and like just business cards. You could do the same thing. I mean, business.
Did you get any pressure from your parents to stop mucking around with those card tricks? They're never going to amount to anything, kind of.
I think they're. Firstly, I should say that my parents have always been supportive. So no, they've never said that. They've probably got a bit, like any parent who, everyone wants stable. But look at what's happening now. People are losing jobs who had the most stable careers. So magic's been really, if you're good and you dedicate yourself, in a way you're your own boss. So you can technically make it very, very safe. You can work for a bank and lose your job. But no, I think, they were always really supportive of it. Plus, I didn't just jump in it as a 17-year-old full time. I did study and try to get the best grades I could ever get at uni, and then got a job and worked. I'm not saying that's ideal, but with this whole thing of range, having that experience of working in government, working for private companies, traveling a bit. So after when we moved here, before going into Curtin to starting uni, I wasn't sure. I was hesitating between biology or graphic design because I love drawing as well. My partner now is a graphic designer, so it's fine. We've got it in the family. But so I ended up going. So I was hesitant, or industrial design. I like building weird things. So And then so I went traveling for a year and a half. And then I started uni. Best thing I ever did, because I came back and I knew a bit more who I was. I was a bit older than the other kids, students at uni, and I got like ducks 4 years in a row and got, the best student of the whole undergrad. It's not because I was smarter. I had to work really hard because I'm not, as I said, a natural with maths and memory. In biology is a lot of memory. So I had to develop so I draw everything 10 times to just burn it in. And so why am I saying
But
that?
you knew what you wanted to do.
So I knew, and I might go back to it. I love biology. I love science. It's great. But yes, so no, my parents they always encouraged the math. They loved the fact that, I wasn't just doing, hey, I'm a biologist and that's all I know. I have no other interest. They love the fact that magic's great fun. Same as being a good musician. When you play guitar.
Yeah, we're both musicians.
How powerful is it around a campfire? When you bring out a guitar, that's magic, And that's a skill that's for life, So.
Yeah, one of the things we are talking about is delaying that specialisation. So everything that you're talking about there, taking a little bit more time to think about what you're doing. It's quite important for finding that passion and being more successful in your vocation. Yeah,
whether it's with sports or languages or just going traveling. They're all saying go travel. I mean, now it's a bit tough, but hopefully it comes back because the youth needs it. I mean, there's nothing better for compassion than seeing how other cultures live. That's why languages are great. They even take you deeper in the understanding of another culture.
It's part of our IB philosophy here. The school takes on that approach as well for kind of developing that international understanding.
Okay, yeah, well, and same with history. Like I was listening to, I think, Hack on Triple J just on my way here, and one of the they were talking about some comments about historical aspects of Captain Cook's arrival, which was definitely a colonial arrival in a continent and a big cultural clash. But some of the I think it was our guest didn't know about Joseph Banks. I've never heard of him before. It's like knowing history is that's another area. Even if I don't want to become a historian, but even if you're going to become a lawyer or a scientist, you need to know your history. That's not just the history of the world. Now, I'm not saying I don't know what year the Ming dynasty in China did such things unless you become a specialist. But just knowing in general that based on archaeological and historical data, that's proper data, this is of course a lot of it's biased through culture, like Western culture will have a specific angle. If you speak to traditional owners, they'll obviously have a different view on the history of Australia, which is 90,000 years old, and that's a fact. Like, people need to know that. Okay, there's a lot of areas we don't know, but knowing history of the whole world as much as you can, and there's books that summarize it. Like in a book, you can just read the thing and you'll understand. Oh wow, okay. So there was a thing 4,000 years ago called the Neolithic Revolution that happened after the last ice age, and it means people sedentarized in the Fertile Crescent in what's now the Middle East, and that's why there's the oldest cultures of the world. That's why they fight, and some of the oldest religion. Oh wow! And then they started agriculture and building cities and domestication of animals. Okay, great. Just knowing that changes your whole perspective on life. And that happened everywhere around the world. So you need to know all of that,
Yeah, some people struggle with facts. And I guess in what you do, even in your magic show, you like to keep that.
Yeah, I love spreading information. Yeah. Even saying this is how I did the trick, I hit it here. That doesn't really matter. But telling them, look, it's just an illusion. I think that's more interesting. And some facts we don't know for sure. It gets revised. They might find a manuscript that said, no, actually, the Egyptians were around for 5,000 years, not 4.5. But in a way that doesn't matter. At least you need to know that, traditional Australians probably came island hopping from Indonesia about 60,000 years ago. It's a fact. You can document it through mitochondrial DNA of females. Did you know that you can trace all humanity in our cells? The mum's DNA gets replicated in the mitochondria. So that's how you can go all the way up to African ancestors. That's a fact, Do we know all of how it happened? No, but that's pretty fascinating. So it's important to know that, or at least know that people spent their life studying it and wrote about it. then you can make your own decision as to
So do you still delve into biology? I mean, you've had a bit of time at home, a bit of homeschooling probably for the last little while. Have you been teaching your kids about biology or magic? What have you been doing?
Well, sorry, I got very passionate there. But yeah, I just love the range of knowledge. It's so important. History is something that I'll keep going. In a way, it's almost more important than science, because the history of science, it's called epistemology, I think. History of knowledge, something everyone should learn, at least understand it's a thing, you know. So my elder is only 4 years old, so he's not into biology yet, although he's great. He goes, Dad, coronavirus, it's tiny, tiny, tiny. It's not the same as a bacteria. It's the smallest thing in the world. Is it life, Dad? I go, well, some people say it's not alive, but it is probably the simplest form of life. So yeah, he is studying biology. It's been great.
Interested in magic as well, or
At that age, because he sees me always playing with magic stuff. But at that age, it's, motor skills are very hard. The kids are not very agile. But yeah, he's starting to go, hey, Dad, look, I've got a rubber band. It's gone. And so he understands it's a thing and it's fun. And it's about having a little secret that you can show something, you'll get into it. But I would never force him to do, to take it seriously. But I think he won't have a choice but to see a lot of it, and he'll make up his own mind.
Yeah, great. Well, Pierre, thanks for coming in. I think, do you have anything more to say?
No, I think that's fantastic. Fun. I was really
really engaging, and we both learned a lot too. So
thanks for having me. This is great. I thought we were just started. Has it already been an hour?
We can keep going if you want.
No, I was being silly. It's been good to go home to the
more tricks to show us.
Not really. I think
all good.
We're good. We've had a good run. So
we really appreciate it, mate.
I wanted you to hypnotise Sam.
No, I'd get in trouble. Show me your phone.
Wouldn't be that hard at the moment.
But I will hypnotise your phone.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you seen this one? See, you can create the illusion of it being all rubbery. And you can actually just, sorry about that. It's just rubber. You just obviously bouncy. So this is all I love this kind of clowning stuff. In a way, that's kind of my favorite type of magic. But yeah, thanks for having me. All the best with the rest.
It's broken. I was joking.
All the best with your program. That's a great idea. So.
Yeah, thanks, and hopefully we can have you in to actually do something with the kids too.